What's up guys, it's SteamVR, welcome back. Now when Pimax has started to ship the first units to the backers, the Pimax pre-orders are also live and the first few hundreds of early backers are slowly receiving their 8K and 5K plus headsets, I think we need to make things easier for all the Pimax early adopters. I will start a new series of videos which will be uploaded frequently between my regular content of course, and these videos will include Pimax software update news, hints and tricks, Pimax related how-to guides and also my personal recommendations. Let's call it Pimax for Dummies. In this first episode, I will briefly talk about the PiTool software and some of its settings you may want to know about, and then moving on to some of the more important tweaks and things you should know about upon your Pimax arrival, especially considering PiTool and SteamVR, and also I will include a short step-by-step guide on how you manually upgrade or flash your Pimax headset's firmware in case something goes wrong, which apparently has happened already to some of the early Pimax owners. Remember, this is only the first video of many coming up, and if you have any handy tips or questions regarding the Pimax, please let me know in the comments and I promise to help you out and most likely also add it into my next videos. And before we begin, make sure to subscribe to my channel and leave a thumbs up on this video. Guys, big thanks to all my Patreon supporters and a special thanks to all my official sponsors, Commander Darklight, Art Armin and VR Ambassador. Alright, let's get to the point and try to keep this video as short and informative as possible. PiTool got recently an update, version 101.90, which fixes the render resolution problems we saw in the earlier version 84 that I also made a video about a week ago. This new updated version 90 does not include any firmware update, so I guess the only news here is the fact that the resolutions are set back to the normal again. I'm very happy about that actually, as this makes my previous benchmark videos and recommended game settings valid again. Also, some games that crashed upon startup with version 84 are now fully working again. Depending on what PiTool render quality value you set and the field of view mode you have chosen in PiTool, after restarting SteamVR, you will see that the resolutions are now much more reasonable. With PiTool at 1.0, normal field of view and SteamVR super sampling at 100%, which is actually my most commonly used setting running an RTX 2080 Ti with Pimax, we get a fairly acceptable resolution of around 3200 x 2600, which is slightly above the resolution we had in PiTool 76, but still not far off. I think using this value with any gaming rig powered with a GTX 1080, 1080 Ti or 2080 Ti, you should be able to handle most games quite well. And if not, the SteamVR super sampling value can be lowered down to maybe 70% without losing too much of sharpness. As you can see, I'm recording this video with my GTX 1070 laptop, which really isn't optimal for Pimax headsets, but I must say, based on the previous Pimax benchmarks I've made on this laptop, we have a fairly amount of games that actually runs great on this system. Using a higher PiTool value or changing FOV to large will of course increase the resolution dramatically, and personally I don't see much reason to go above PiTool 1.0 and SteamVR super sampling at 100% as long as the game itself isn't very blurry or maybe have its own built-in super sampling or render scaling. The normal field of view is more than enough for most gamers I think, and going large field of view won't give you that much of peripheral vision, so the performance loss is simply not worth it. Anyways, let's jump back to PiTool for a second, and I know I have given you some brief overview of the PiTool settings already in my previous videos and also the full Pimax review, but let me just go through some of the settings that might help you get started if you are new to your Pimax unit or just received it. In the General tab under Settings, there is an option to start Pimax VR Home. As of today, I really recommend you to just leave this option disabled. What this option does is to start Pimax's own home screen in the headset when SteamVR is not running. This home screen gives you nothing else than a cool looking 360 view in room scale, and also lets you see your hands if you have the Leap Motion hand tracking adapter attached to your Pimax. There is basically nothing you can do in there, and the problem is that the process which runs this Unity engine environment is extremely heavy on your CPU, often utilizing 25% of your CPU or even more, no matter what CPU you got actually. If you wonder why CPU fans suddenly start to spin, then it's most likely just PiTool Home doing its business. So untick this option and just leave it there for now. Next up, under the HMD tab in PiTool settings, we have two options which are supposed to give us better game compatibility with Pimax. The first option is Hidden Area Mask, which as far as I know fixes a problem in a few VR games currently available, where in-game objects are not being rendered in the far peripheral view. There are not many games actually having this problem anymore, and some of them are, for example, Onward, The Gallery Part 1 and Part 2, and mostly a handful of Unity engine games. Another thing that this option also seems to fix is to mask out some render things in the outer edges of the peripheral view, basically things that shouldn't be visible as they could be distracting for your eyes. This is something I have seen happen in Arizona Sunshine, for example. The problem with this option is that it also seems to be affecting the performance. Leaving it off or disabled can give you a noticeable boost in frame rate when running VR games that don't need this fix to be applied. I would personally say leave this option disabled, and if you found some weird issues in the peripheral vision when playing your favorite game, just enable this option and restart the game. The second option is for enabling parallel projection support. This is, as far as I understand it, a game engine render related setting. If you keep it disabled while starting a game that needs this option to be enabled, you will definitely see it instantly. The game will be incorrectly rendered, giving you an uncomfortable cross-eye effect, almost like left and right eyes are swapped. Many VR games, if not the majority of them, and especially VR simulators, require parallel projections to be enabled. So the clever option would just be, of course, to just enable it and have it on all the time. But the problem again is that if the game you want to play does not need the parallel projection rendering and you keep it enabled, you will lose up to 30% of the performance, giving you much lower frame rates in-game. So if you struggle with frame rates in some games, try running them without this option enabled, or both the PiTool options disabled actually, and see if it works. If it does, you will definitely get a huge performance boost. As an example, we have Skyrim VR, which actually does not need the parallel projection nor the hidden area mask to be enabled. The game itself will run completely fine without these options enabled, and well, the loading screen may look a bit weird in Skyrim VR, but that's only the loading screens and nothing you will be probably bothered about. And running Skyrim VR with parallel projection disabled can boost your frame rate a lot, for example from 70 to 90 frames per second or even more, which makes a huge difference in VR, of course. Basically, in all my previous Pimax benchmark videos, I had kept both of these options enabled in PiTool, but I would recommend you to play around with the settings because it can really be worth to disable them, at least when it's possible. Now let's talk about SteamVR, because we have a major problem here since a few weeks ago. Ever since Valve updated the SteamVR Beta version several times in mid-October and added the motion smoothing to HTC Vive, for example, things have started to go very wrong with the Pimax headsets. As we already know, motion smoothing is not supported by the Pimax headsets yet, so we cannot use it anyway. Apart from some instability issues with the beta, there is one main problem here which you simply not should overlook. If you're running the latest SteamVR Beta branch, you will get terrible resolution and very blurry image overall when being inside of the SteamVR Dashboard on your Pimax. No matter what settings you use, no matter what PiTool render value, field of view mode, or even SteamVR super sampling, the dashboard will just look bad. And this is not how it's supposed to be and not how it's used to be before. Something has just gone terribly wrong with the SteamVR betas lately. The solution for this is simple though. though. Just switch back to the standard SteamVR version and your super sharp and great looking image in SteamVR Dashboard is back again. Just turn off SteamVR, go into your Steam main window, choose Library and click on Tools. Find SteamVR in the long list of apps, right click on it, go to Properties, and in the new window go to the Betas tab. In the drop down list switch to None, opt out of all beta programs, hit close and let Steam download the non-beta version again. Once the download is done, start up the SteamVR non-beta again and admire the view. It looks way better now. I'm not sure if you can really see the difference so obvious in the examples I'm just showing you right now between the SteamVR beta version and the non-beta version, but believe me, in VR the difference is huge. Also, what makes things look even better or much sharper in SteamVR Dashboard is if you crank up the SteamVR VR Compositor Super Sampling to maximum level 2.0. This super samples the SteamVR Dashboard menu only and won't affect your games, but believe me, it's really worth it. The dashboard looks incredibly sharp and crisp this way, especially on the Pimax 5K Plus, but also on the 8K you will see a significant difference. You can change the VR Compositor Super Sampling to value 2 in two different ways. The easiest way is to download and install the OpenVR Advanced Settings, which is a very handy plugin for SteamVR, which lets you change and customize many settings in VR. Once you install it, you will have it accessible in SteamVR Dashboard. Go to SteamVR tab and change the Compositor Render Target Multiplier from default 1.0 to 2.0. Remember, you need to restart SteamVR before the changes are visible. The second way, without using the OpenVR Advanced Settings plugin, is to open the directory C Programs x86, Steam, then Config, and open up the file SteamVR.VR settings with Notepad or any other text editor. Search for the line Compositor and change the Render Target Multiplier value from number 1 to number 2. If you cannot find the line, just add the whole bracket as shown here. Remember, it's very important to add all the necessary brackets and commas and stuff, otherwise SteamVR won't be able to read the file, so make sure it looks exactly as shown here. So having all these small tweaks made, you will get a much better first time experience with your Pimax 8K and 5K Plus without getting disappointed. There are for sure more tweaks and stuff to be made, but I will save that for the next video. I will now round up this Pimax For Dummies first episode by showing you how you easily can manually install or flash the firmware of your Pimax 8K and 5K Plus headset. This is normally something you don't need to do, as the firmware updates are made automatically through PiTool software with just a click of your mouse. But if something goes wrong, if you for some reason cannot get your Pimax headset to start, if the LED light close to your power button is blinking or just being red without any reason and won't turn on the headset, a firmware update or flash will most likely fix the problem. Luckily, there is an application Pimax has made to manually flash the Pimax headsets, which I will give you a link to in the video description down here below. And the latest firmware update file is always accessible in your Pimax installation folder or in your C drive. But let's take it step by step here. First, download the firmware updater, which is the DFU upgrade.zip file, and you will find the link to it in the video description as I said before. It's a link straight to the Pimax server, so don't worry. Once downloaded, open up the zip file and extract the whole folder, preferably to the root of your C drive. It makes it easier, trust me. Now open up another Explorer window, go to your C drive, and under Programs, Pimax, Runtime and DFU driver, here you will find a file called p2.dfu. This is actually a backup version of the latest firmware of your Pimax. Now copy this file to the same folder that you just extracted the DFU upgrade zip file, so the firmware file is in the same folder as the firmware updater. Now go to the search on your Windows activity bar next to the Windows logo, type cmd, you will see command prompt as the first found alternative, right click on it and choose Run as Administrator. A Windows command prompt will open up. Now browse to your DFU upgrade folder in the root of your C drive as I'm showing you here, And before we do anything else, we need to close down all the PiTool services that are running in the background, including the PiTool software. This is simply done by opening up the Windows Task Manager, arrange the services by name and look for the ones starting with the letter P. Now close down PiService Launcher, PiService, PiServer and PiOverlay. Make sure none of them are running anymore. Now go back to the command prompt window again and type dfusc command.exe, which is the name of the executable file of the firmware updater. Make sure that you use big and small letters as shown. Hit space, type the number 0, then space again, and follow up by adding p2.dfu, which is the name of the firmware file. But do not hit enter yet, wait a second. Before we can execute this command and start the firmware update, we need to set the Pimax headset in DFU mode, which basically is a service mode. It's very easy and it will not harm your Pimax, I promise. First, disconnect the power cable from the Pimax cable splitter. The next part is a little bit more tricky, but I'm sure you will make it. As you know, Pimax has 3 buttons on top right side of the headset, which are power button and 2 volume buttons up and down. Next to it we have a LED light which is currently off. Now using one of your hands, push down all 3 buttons with 3 fingers and keep the buttons pressed down all the time. Now using your second hand, connect the power cable to the Pimax cable splitter again and make sure all the 3 buttons are still pressed down. Once it's done, keep holding down all the 3 buttons and start counting. After around 8 seconds, release only the power button, but keep the volume buttons pressed down, and as you can see, the LED light just becomes blue. Count another 8 seconds and release the volume up button only. Now wait another second or 2 and release the last volume down button. The LED light should now start to blink rapidly with red, green and blue colors switching all the time. This means the Pimax headset is now in DFU mode, or the service mode, as we just wanted. Now let's jump back to the command prompt window and push enter. The firmware update starts and it should take no longer than maybe 10 seconds. Once you see the lines upgrade successful, name internal flash and return OK, you're simply done. The firmware update will reboot the headset and the LED goes red after the reboot. Now you will need to reboot your PC so all the PiTool software and services starts up again. After rebooting the PC, if the headset LED light is still red and PiTool is running but showing that the headset is not connected, then push the power button once and it will turn green after a few seconds and the headset shows up in PiTool. Mission accomplished and you can enjoy your Pimax 8K or 5K Plus again, fully working. Remember guys, do this firmware update only if you really need to and if you cannot get your Pimax to work, or if it's for some reason not detectable by your PC, or if you have desperately tried everything else. Upgrading the firmware will not harm your Pimax, trust me. I have actually even managed to flash my 5K Plus and 8K with incorrect firmware files a few times, but by just following this guide step by steps, you will get your Pimax running again without any problems or risks taken. Also, as a side note, if your Pimax headset's LED light is purple and the blue chevron on the front keeps blinking, it's because of the current glitch in the PiTool software, only happening when the option for power projection is enabled. If you disable power projection option, the LED light turns green again and the blue chevron stops blinking. I really hope Pimax fixes this in the next PiTool update, as I've never seen this problem before, but since the latest version of PiTool 90, it's now started to happen and I guess it's just a glitch. Guys, this is it for now. Thank you so much for watching and please let me know what you think about this new video series. Let me know if you have any useful hints and tricks regarding the Pimax 8K and 5K Plus headsets, and also please subscribe for more videos here on SteamVR and hit that like button if you found this video helpful. As always, a big thanks to all my lovely Patreon supporters and a special thanks to my official sponsors on Patreon, Commander Darklight, Art Armin and of course VR Ambassador. See you in my next video guys and have a lovely day now. Cheers!